The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's great today to speak on Bill C-97, the Budget Implementation Act, which introduces many of the measures we've brought forth in Budget 2019, which again goes to our central tenet, our central value of continuing to strengthen the middle class and help those working hard to join the middle class here in this great and beautiful country we live in called Canada. Obviously proud to be the Member of Parliament from Vaughan Woodbridge, a riding that's very entrepreneurial, a riding that I get to have the benefit of raising my two daughters in, a riding that when I knock on doors I hear plenty of feedback and my residents are doing well, they're working hard, they're saving, they're creating a better future for them and their families, and that's great to see. And we're all here in the House to ensure that Canadians and their families have a better future, and that's been a central tenet of our government. It's my pleasure to rise today and speak about the government's next step in its plan to invest in the middle class and grow the economy. Recently, Mr. Speaker, our government tabled Bill C-97, the Budget Implementation Act, which announced a number of new initiatives, including measures to make it more affordable for Canadians to rent or buy a home. And Mr. Speaker, I mentioned this word of affordable and affordability, and it's something that I hear a lot, and it's something that our government is acting on and has acted on. Today, the OECD announced that Canadians face one of the lowest tax burdens amongst all the OECD members. And that's due to our middle class tax cut, that's due to the Canada Child Benefit, the 10% increase in the Guaranteed Income Supplement, a number of measures we've adopted that help Canadians, Canadian families. So when we think about that, Canadians now have face one of the lowest tax bases amongst all OECD countries. Wow. And that is something we should be proud of. That one of the lowest tax burdens faced by OECD countries is right here in Canada. Something that we need to applaud, we need to move forward on. That includes lifting Canadians out of poverty, 825,000. Lifting 300,000 children out of poverty, something we should be proud of. Mr. Speaker, and on affordability, something that is near and dear to the residents of York Region and across Canada is housing affordability. Mr. Speaker, housing affordability and market stability are issues that concern many middle-class families, and they are issues that this government takes seriously. Everyone needs a safe and affordable place to call home, but today, too many Canadians are being priced out of the housing market. For 10 years, Conservative politicians like Stephen Harper and the Honourable Opposition Leader did nothing to address housing affordability, pushing home ownership further out of the reach of hard-working middle-class Canadians and putting household debt on the rise. With Budget 2019 and through Bill C-97, the BIA, our government is making smart, significant investments to help Canadians find an affordable place to call home. One of our responsibilities as a government is to support a healthy, competitive, and stable housing market, one in which all middle-class families and first-time homebuyers specifically have the possibility to buy their first home without having to take on excessive risk. That is why our government to date has taken a wide array of actions to improve housing affordability. So to help more young families take their first steps towards home ownership, our government is announcing targeted support to first-time home buyers across the country in this budget and implemented through Bill C-97. Through Bill C-97, we are introducing a first-time home buyer incentive, a new program that will make home ownership more affordable for first-time buyers by allowing them to lower their monthly mortgage payments. The first-time home buyers incentives will give eligible first-time home buyers the option to finance a portion of their home directly with Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation. The program would provide up to $1.25 billion in shared equity mortgages to eligible borrowers over the next 3 years. The program would mean a more affordable down payment as well as more manageable mortgage payments. Also, we're proposing to provide first-time home buyers with greater access to their registered retirement savings plan to buy a home. Budget 2019, Mr. Speaker, proposes to increase the home buyers plan withdrawal limit to $35,000 from the current limit of $25,000. In a two-income family, that could mean up to $70,000 could be withdrawn from your RSP to purchase your first home, more equity in a home, lower mortgage amount, and lower debt for Canadian families. I believe that's a smart investment, a smart policy tool that our government put in place. This change will help first-time home buyers achieve their dream of purchasing their very own home. Because when Canadians can take pride in the place they hang their hat at the end of the day, they feel better about their community and their country. In 2017, our government also launched the National Housing Strategy. It's the first of its kind in Canada and provides a range of new tools and programming to build, repair, and renew Canada's stock of community and affordable housing. The strategy will create 100,000 new housing units and repair and renew 300,000 units. Simply put, Mr. Speaker, Canada's National Housing Strategy is a $40 billion 10-year plan to help Canadians across the country access the housing their needs and that they can afford. Mr. Speaker, most importantly, we need to ensure that Canadians have a safe and secure place to call home, affordable, that they can raise their families and have a brighter future for themselves and their children, and of course their grandchildren. As part of the strategy, our government also launched a $13.2 billion National Housing Co-Investment Fund that will assist vulnerable Canadians access affordable housing. That includes survivors leaving violence, seniors, Indigenous people, new immigrants, and people with disability. Mr. Speaker, through the National Housing Strategy, more Canadians will have a safe and affordable place to call home, including in my riding of Vaughan Woodbridge, where currently we have under construction a affordable housing development, which up to 162 units will be offered for individuals that need assistance, that need a safe and secure and affordable place to call home. And that is what Canada is about, Mr. Speaker, helping those that need assistance, ensuring that we all have opportunities to succeed. I'm thankful to say we've created over 900,000 jobs over the last 3 years. Canadians have created over 900,000 jobs over the last 3 years. We've set the conditions for foreign direct investment, for domestic investment, which is at elevated levels, recovering from the oil crisis 3 years ago. And, Mr. Speaker, we see that with investments across the country and particularly here in Ontario. I know in my riding, manufacturing firms are continuing to expand, continuing to hire. And when I visit these firms and these enterprises, the biggest issue they have is they cannot find enough labor. Mr. Speaker, 548,000 job postings are currently unfilled in Canada, according to Stats Canada at the end of 2018. That reflects the robustness of our job market, also reflects the fact that demographics, people are retiring, and we need to replace those through a robust and secure immigration system. Mr. Speaker, through the National Housing Strategy, more Canadians will have a safe and affordable place to call home. In fact, these measures are expected to help lift 530,000 Canadians out of housing need. We've already lifted 825,000 Canadians out of poverty, which I think is something we need to talk about, because that is how you create a better Canada for all Canadians, lifting everyone up. And will help reduce chronic homelessness by half over the next 10 years. I am proud to say Budget 2019 builds on these actions, helping more middle-class Canadians realize their dream of owning a home. To start, Budget 2019 proposes to further expand the rental construction financing initiative, again, which is stated in Bill C-97, making an additional $10 billion in financing over the next 9 years. I'm happy to report, Mr. Speaker, this program is actually oversubscribed by individuals, developers building new rental construction. We haven't seen a lot of new rental construction over the last few years. We are starting to see it in Canada. The housing market is a continuum. We need more and a greater supply of rental housing in Canada. And through this program, we are getting it, Mr. Speaker. The program will help build thousands of new units across Canada with a particular focus in areas of low rental supply. And in recognition of barriers to developing new housing, Budget 2019 also proposes a $300 million housing supply challenge. Through this challenge, the government will invite municipalities and other groups to propose new ways to break down the barriers that limit the creation of new housing. Those ideas will be added to our consultations on how we can best increase housing supply. To that point, Budget 2019 proposes support for the recently announced expert panel on the future of housing supply and affordability, launched in partnership with the province of British Columbia. The panel will be tasked to examine factors that limit housing availability, recommending actions governments can take to build better, more affordable, and more inclusive communities. And finally, Mr. Speaker, to ensure future investments on housing supply are put to their best use possible use, Budget 2019, through Bill C-97, proposes that CMHC invest $5 million over 2 years for state-of-the-art modeling of housing supply and release data collection. So that's what our government is doing on the supply side, Mr. Speaker, because we know greater supply is important to reducing costs. But Budget 2019 is also making the housing market more fair and more affordable for Canadians. After all, Mr. Speaker, for many families, their homes are the most important assets, so ensuring a healthy, competitive, and stable housing market for all is a priority for our government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.